Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm Naveed Iftihar. I'm co-founder of Atom Camp. It's an AI training company that we specialize upskilling the workforce in Pakistan and in many other countries. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you CDPR for the invitation. So today's panel is very important for Pakistan, for many other societies as well. I've been working with the governments in Pakistan, in Saudi Arabia, and universities as well recently. And I think there are many questions that people are struggling to find answers. A lot of uncertainty around, and also the pace of development is very fast actually. And this is a timely effort, and also a continuous focus is required to understand artificial intelligence, its implications. For today's panel, we have three panelists. We have Bilal Tanveer. Bilal is a writer, translator, and a professor, obviously, and a novelist as well. So he has his debut novel that we'd also like to know more about his novel. The scatter here is too great. So we have Ms. Rukhsana Zia. Rukhsana is an academic at FCC University, and she has wide experience of training, development, and other areas. Taimur Bande is an educationist, education leader. He has been working in the education sector, schooling, for a long time, and I've been following his work, especially on career counseling for young students. So I think this is a great panel to understand. So I'd just like to say that there is so much. There is a recent study by MIT as well that 95% of use cases of AI are failures actually. So it does not mean that AI is going to go somewhere else, or it's not useful, but the study is telling it's really challenging to understand how to adopt AI. The pace is very fast, the way AI technologies are evolving, but how organizations are adopting, how workforce is upskilling, that massive impact in productivity, obviously that will require more time. But now people are talking more and more about the implications of this AI revolution in society, workforce, and education. And because we are talking more about educational, and that is going to be more profound in a way, how AI is going to solve some of the challenges, how AI is going to solve some of the problems, and how it is going to create new set of problems. So we are here to understand these opportunities and challenges. So I'll start with Bilal. So Bilal teaches at LUMS, and Bilal would like to understand especially that how universities are trying to make sense what's happening around. And we all hear that teachers are also talking about plagiarism, and students are not putting much effort into their assignments, their works. तो इस सब में how universities जो हैं especially पाकिस्तान में लम्स, अगर आप थोड़ा सा ग्लोबल भी सिनेरियो बता सकें, एंड देन यू कैन ऑल्सो टॉक अबाउट आपने यू टेकन अ फ्यू इनिशिएटिव एट लम्स, तो हाउ यू आर ट्राइंग टू मेक सेंस एंड एक्ट फॉर दिस रेवोल्यूशन.
Thank you. So thank you so much, first of all, to Ayman, to CDPR, for having this conversation. I think it's an important one, and I think it's great to be part of it because LUMS folks are usually confined within LUMS. LUMS is a sort of a bubble, and it's really wonderful to be part of this conversation with professionals across Lahore who are working in education. So I'll share my own vantage. I was part of a committee that was given the task to make an AI policy. And after a year-long sort of deliberation, work, research, and so on, what we learned was that it's very difficult to have a policy as such. And what we ended up proposing or sharing with the university was a reflective framework, which started out with defining the problem that we are trying to address with this reflective framework, and then proposing the solutions, or proposing a few solutions, which were again open-ended. There weren't hard solutions. The immediate crisis that obviously faced us at LUMS, and I think that's true of academia at large, in educational institutions generally, is of grading and assessment. That you have these instruments that we have been using ever since the modern university, really came into being, which is essays and written instruments, and all of those actually can now be solved or done through AI. So you don't necessarily, so students are gaining credit for things that they might or might not have learned. So that is the immediate problem, right? How do you come up with grading instruments that are AI resilient? So when we started thinking about this problem, actually it became very clear to us as a committee, but also to me particularly, that the problem goes much deeper. The problem is there are two core functions that a university performs, which is one, knowledge production. So you produce knowledge which is verifiable, which is reliable, upon which the rest of society, governments can do things like policy making. They can create other structures of knowledge, which again society really depends on it. That's why universities are valuable, because they're producing this knowledge that is reliable knowledge. That is the first thing. The second part that AI disrupts is learning, which is cultivation of expertise in domains of knowledge, producing knowledge workers. Now, AI, and that is the function I think that I want to talk about. We can talk about knowledge production as well, but the function that I really want to focus on is learning, and how is AI disrupting that? Because the problem we face with AI, so there is the reality of AI, and then there is the hype of AI, right? The hype of AI is that here are experts in every field. So AI is an expert in every field that exceeds or matches human level expertise. That is the claim of AI companies, of companies that are pushing AI. But the reality of AI is not that. Ask any expert in any area, right? You will find that yes, it is able to simulate and produce expert level content. However, every expert will also tell you that it makes dumb mistakes, right? So we have a situation where we have a very kind of a tricky technology, which in large parts functions fine and produces very sophisticated looking output. At the same time, it is making dumb errors, right? There was a paper and Apple has a research unit. And so one of the researchers published a paper, and you can find these, I can share the citations, that LLMs, which is large learning models, are not able to do formal reasoning. They don't do formal reasoning. What they're doing, they're sophisticated pattern recognition machines, right? So what they're doing is that they've been trained on vast amounts of data, and they see certain patterns, and then they replicate those patterns. They're able to, but if you ask them to abstract and formally reason, and there are certainly huge variations on very, very simple problems. So when ChatGPT 5 was released, there was somebody posted this on Twitter, one of the researchers actually, and it was a very simple mathematical equation, which was 5.9 equals x plus 5.11, and the prompt was minus subtract 5.11 from both sides of the equation. And the answer that AI gave was 0.11, which is obviously, this is ChatGPT 5. This is happening last week. So on the one hand, ChatGPT, we know its capability. It's able to produce this very, very sophisticated sort of reasoning, very, very sophisticated output. But ChatGPT 5 also, if you ask it to produce a diagram of a label diagram of a bicycle, try and do that. You will find that it has multiple handlebars. It has mislabeled the whole whole image and so on and so forth. So that is the nature of technology that we are dealing with. Now, the problem that we face in the classroom is that we have a technology that is claiming to be claiming to be an expert on everything. It is not able to do that. And so let me also add one more thing, slightly technical, which is that these hallucinations are not a technical glitch that can be overcome. With the existing engineering that underlies these systems, these hallucinations are very much how they produce all their output. So this idea of 100% reliability or a very high degree of reliability in their output, except in very, very, very narrow areas, that simply does not. So this whole idea of artificial general intelligence, every serious researcher will tell you that we have not solved those problems that were bedeviling this, that have bedeviled us for the last 30 or 40 years. Those problems, those fundamental problems are still there. What we have done is created these, we have really scaled up. We have added a lot of compute. We have added a lot more data to these systems. So these systems are able to see a lot more patterns, and then they're able to replicate from that. So that's what that's the premise of whatever I'm going to say, that these systems are fundamentally hallucinatory. These systems are fundamentally there to produce unreliable information. They will produce unreliable. So in that situation, in this sort of a scenario, the best users of AI are experts themselves. Right? So if you are an economist, you will be able to make really good use of AI because you are an expert. You know when something is not sounding right, that things don't necessarily add up, because you have expertise. You have developed expertise. You have spent 30, 40 years doing that very basic drudgery of doing all of these things yourself. And you have reached a level where you have expertise. And so now if some things don't add up, okay, ye masle hain. Great. You are able to use these systems. These systems really elevate your productivity and so on and so forth. The problem is people you are training to be experts, right? So these systems, what these systems are essentially doing, they are taking away, or they want to take away the more kind of boring work from every task. But the truth is, for all knowledge work, we need to go through those lower level reasoning tasks in order to develop higher level reasoning abilities, right? So I'll just give you an example. I think this was being floated, this quotation by Dario Amodei, who's the head of Anthropic, Claude. He came out and said, I think this was February around this year, where he said that AI will wipe out, I think he said, he gave a number, I forgot the number. It's a large number. It was a large number, X percentage of entry-level jobs. Great. And probably it might do that. The problem is, if you eliminate those entry-level jobs and AI is doing those entry-level jobs, who is going to be, how are you going to train your mid-level management or mid-level or the top level? Because that is the pipeline, right? There have been many studies like that, actually, ever since. There was one that was recently published in the New York Times where where they did a study in Italy and in Portugal, and I think one more. So Italy actually banned use of ChatGPT for coders. And what they discovered was that obviously they were not as productive as their colleagues in Portugal, but they saw certain really interesting patterns. One of the patterns they saw was that young coders were able to do tasks much more quickly. However, the question really is, were they able to understand what they were doing? And if they were doing something wrong, were they able to rectify it? And to have that expertise where they are able to rectify whatever they're producing with AI, because if you don't understand what you're producing, how are you going to fix it, right? Because if AI is doing this higher level reasoning work that you do not understand, and if there is something goes wrong, how are you going to fix it? And the problem with learning, really, and that's the problem with learning that we are talking about. So in the classroom, that's the problem we have, right? That how do you cultivate expertise in the presence of these systems that are actually undercutting the development of expertise itself, right? And this is what AI companies are pushing very aggressively right now, which is where they want the chatbots to be integrated into the classroom. Again, I'm not saying that all scenarios, all use cases are wrong, but I think it's a as I'm saying, the technology is fundamentally unreliable, and the paradox that we really face is that the best users of AI are experts, but the technology itself is undermining the cultivation of that very expertise. And so I have, obviously I can say more, but
Yeah, I think, thank you, Bilal. So there is also, just for the sake of conversation and also trying to understand, so there is one way to look at AI, what it can't do actually. So the way Bilal has actually eloquently, just described it, but there is also another way what AI is doing right now actually. And so that's also a huge journey that AI has already traveled. So the kind of issues that Bilal is mentioning, they are problematic. And if you look 2 years ago, so they have improved a lot actually in these 2 years, and that improvement is going to happen very rapidly. This hallucination problem, this reasoning problem, there are neuroscientists, there are actually now bioscientists who are working a lot on improving the reasoning of these LLMs. So we also need to look at it like, the power that also lies with AI is, I can tell you that an international relations students is now doing automation learning, software engineering. So these sort of opportunities are also being created with AI. Right now, there are, these are two my students, they are also sitting here. They both are from social sciences. They both have actually learned artificial intelligence, and they both are doing in AI work. So right now, we even accept or don't accept, in America particularly, this is the highest unemployment rate. Yes, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but first let's acknowledge the problem. It's good or bad, obviously we can talk about it. But highest unemployment rate of software engineers in America right now, graduates. Because AI has, to a large extent, they have, yes, the bugs it cannot remove, but the work that many of the software engineers sitting in Pakistan, in India were doing, there were two waves actually. The first wave came 3 years ago when ChatGPT was launched. Hundreds and thousands of Pakistanis from Upwork have vanished actually. What they were doing, they were writing actually blogs, copywriting, graphics, and this all disappeared. Now this is the second actually shift with GPT-5, with Claude. So now software engineers, so we can say that it's not good, but in industry, right now I'm coming from a factory where we were doing trainings, and we were doing their sales and marketing training people, and in AI. And the way they started using all of these tools, they were saying, we don't need many assistants. It's good or bad, it's a separate discussion. But, we need to acknowledge that a lot of journey AI has already traveled. There is also not a perfect technology. We need to have a cautious tale. We need to have a caution in action as well. So let's come to Taimur. And Taimur, particularly when Bilal was also mentioning that many AI companies, global companies, and narrative is also integrating AI with classrooms, with the learning management systems. So, what do you think the utility of this thing? How is it happening? Not happening? Is it the way, because our focus here also is learning actually. Is this something that is helping in learning outcomes? Though very nascent, sort of evidence is emerging. जो है मैं इसके बाद में बात करूंगा. अभी एक स्टैनफोर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी ने एक अपना रिस्पांस भेजा है प्रेसिडेंट को, जिसमें देव मेंशन्ड अबाउट सम ऑफ द एक्शंस नीडेड फॉर एजुकेशन सेक्टर एज वेल. लेकिन पहले हम थोड़ा सा क्लासरूम में एआई की इंटीग्रेशन पे बात करते हैं.
So, I'll talk about this from a school's perspective. Schools obviously are going through this massive upheaval revolution where I think some of us have accepted the fact that AI is here. It is not coming, that it is already there. So, the next task is how to deal with it. Instead of living in a denial that it is coming, we should get ready for it. It is already around us in many, many ways. And it is not just the society that shows us, the children, the students, as low as grade 4, are now teaching us what all they can do and what all they want to do in their classrooms. So, to give you a small example, we are now dealing with a generation that is going to go to the real world in the next 15 years, 20 years. Go back 15, 20 years, go to 2005. The world was very different. Pakistan was very different. So we're now preparing a generation that will go into the real world in 2045, 2050. The world is definitely going to be a very different ball game. So now the generation is not demanding the traditional modes, the traditional channels, the traditional teaching, traditional resources anymore. ChatGPT की बात हो रही थी, that's a problem as low as grade 4, where the teacher can't detect how the child has copied stuff from there, is bringing it to the class. So what we started questioning were our assessment systems. How are we assessing? Because in the age of AI, perhaps we need to start assessing children differently. Gone are the days when you would do knowledge testing, and we were just discussing it, but unfortunately Cambridge still seems to be stuck in knowledge testing and constantly assessing or children on grades. It's all about A stars, etc. And so the child knows their path. The teachers know their path. They've decoded it. Tuitions are rampant. I don't see any difference between A levels and FSC anymore because the systems are more or less the same. It's all rote learning. IB is one system that has allowed us to play around with this and not only accept that but also deal with it. So, for example, you don't have an AI exam in any of the systems, American High School, Cambridge, or IB for that matter. But now AI is becoming part and parcel where students are now demanding to be taught tools and taught the basics and fundamentals of AI right from the primary years, so that by the time they reach their middle school, they are so well equipped that they can deal with it. They're also now telling us how assessment should be done differently. So, for example, IB now accepts AI as long as you talk about it and give reference to it in terms of ChatGPT, etc. But then our assessments have become different, where we now try and ask the student to decode the information that they've gathered or they're talking about. So the whole paradigm shift is now there inside the classrooms, and there's no escape to that. I'll give you a small example of the kind of generation we're dealing with. We started a financial literacy program last year. So I asked the teachers, A-level high school economics teachers, to come and give a presentation of what they feel we should teach students who are not taking economics, for example. So they came out with very traditional systems of demand, supply, market. We'll tell them this, that, the other. Then I called the students, high school and A-level students, economics, what do you think? So they said, no, let's talk about taxation, let's talk about regulations of the government, etc., etc. Let's talk about financial, the banking system, etc. We took this to the middle school. I'm talking about grade 6, 7, 8 IB students. And we started the presentation. We have this child raise his hand. Said, why are you talking about this? Please tell us about crypto, Bitcoin, Web 3.0, FinTech. We're not interested in taxation. And so we had to remodel. I was looking at the teachers. We started with demand and supply, and we landed up with crypto. So we now have compulsory classes in the middle school where an expert is there teaching about crypto, Bitcoin, etc. Inside the classroom. Yeah. And the same children then told us about AI. So now we had to develop an AI curriculum. And interestingly, the child in grade 6 comes and shows this article that UAE government has made AI compulsory from K to 12. So why can't we learn them in our schools? So we had to develop something where we could bring it in and start teaching children. It's a compulsory subject where children are now studying. Surprisingly, because when you teach them anything extra in the regular stream, they say, "Iska to imtihan mein kuch aana nahi, why are you teaching us?" But here there's a lot of interest that is developed. So coming back to the point that we are now looking at a generation that learn to do this first and then hold a pen. So we are we are immigrants into technology. They are natives of technology. So we have to see the world from their perspective. So they are now forcing us to bring it down inside the classrooms. Issues are now, when you embrace it, when you accept it, it's there. Then, of course, the second phase is how we deal with it. So ethical issues, for example. In IB, we have academic honesty policy. So we have to integrate AI into our policies. We have an assessment policy, so AI comes in the assessment policy. We have an admissions policy, so AI comes there also. You talk about it there as well. And there is no prior sort of structure to, take on from. So we don't have prior data to use of what is being done in schools otherwise. So it's a completely new game where it's the learners are learning along with those who are teaching them. So it's, learning phase for everyone in that point.
थैंक यू आई थिंक दैट्स इंटरेस्टिंग और जो है मैं जस्ट आपसे शेयर करना चाह रहा था अभी रिसेंटली आई एम इन्वॉल्व इन सऊदी अरेबिया वेयर सऊदी गवर्नमेंट हैज़ एंगेज्ड अस एंड वी आर ट्रेनिंग यूनिवर्सिटी प्रोफेसर्स इन अडॉप्टिंग AI. And so we did a lot of R&D around the world that the way universities are adopting. So almost every good university has developed an AI policy. And that AI policy also talks about, these assessments actually. And the way we used to do assessments, it need to change actually. जैसे इसकी एग्जांपल अक्सर हम जब मैं एक जगह पे उसमें रिपोर्ट में पढ़ रहा था तो समवन हैज़ रिटन के पहले जो हम लोगों को टेस्ट करते थे वो नॉलेज को रिप्रोड्यूस करने के लिए टेस्ट करते थे. नॉलेज स्कॉलरशिप एडवांसमेंट इज़ ऑब्वियसली ए नेक्स्ट लेवल ऑफ लर्निंग जो है, लेकिन जो बेसिक लेवल पे नॉलेज को रिप्रोड्यूस करने पे करते थे. तो नाउ एक्चुअली द स्किल दैट वी नीड टू टेस्ट इज़ टू इवेल्यूएट द नॉलेज कि वो नॉलेज रिप्रोड्यूस होया हुआ मिल जाता है विद जनरेटिव AI. एंड नो वी नीड अ स्किल सेट students can actually evaluate that knowledge. So wo skill set is different than the way we were traditionally testing actually. So that is on the assessment side. So Rukhsana, we are coming to this learning aspect and particularly assessments की बात हुई. So कि assessments भी change होनी चाहिए. But what do you think particularly the skill set that we have been focusing on, will it remain relevant for students, for our graduates? So how do we need to change that focus on skill set that will be needed for this AI era? और उसके लिए हमें अपनी teaching कैसे change करनी पड़ेगी या कर रहे हैं या नहीं करनी चाहिए?
Thank you so much. I've been listening to Bilal, and if you don't mind, I'll start a little bit with what each of them have said. A little bit about me. I have over 50 years of educational experience. So that counts a lot. And after my PhD, I've been doing multilateral diplomacy. I've been doing policy making at the federal level. I've been doing implementing teacher development policy in Punjab. So it was a huge projects that I've done with the government and donor agencies. And there's a lot I can say about a lot of things. But Bilal ne kuch baatein ki. I think the first thing we need to establish about AI is that it is a cumulative knowledge that exists as it is right now. There's nothing more in there. It is just a lot of knowledge that is out there in the libraries. And we just put some coding algorithms in there and we put out in them human reasoning. And so that knowledge deficient that it is the knowledge that we have everywhere in the world. It's not AI's hallucination. It is the hallucination it does on a couple of other things, and I'll get to them, how it does hallucination and attrition it comes that you see along the way. चीज़ जो इसके मुताल्लिक है AI की जो हम misconception है, it is just very fast. It is just that knowledge at your fingertips, very fast. It accumulates the knowledge and churns it out. regurgitates it out. It does no original thinking of its own. Those are some of the things. It just structures them very well, looks nice, looks lovely. It is a model not for education, let's accept it. It was developed by corporate world for corporate and for industry. It has no, it is not for any human good. It is not built to provide education. It was not meant, that's not the purpose. Now, I think the responsibility of the education professionals is to make it educational. That's the problem that we are facing. क्योंकि वो जब बनी है तो वो बनी इस फोकस ही से नहीं बनी कि वो एजुकेशन के पर्पस है. वो तो है ही, it's something for the businesses and corporations. वो एक ये चीज हो गई. So we have to now tame it according to educational. So that is why we're facing all those structural systemic issues, are because we have to now redo the whole thing to suit the educational environment. उसके बाद आप there was another point that I thought कि it's skill set जो ये कह रहे हैं आपके, it is going to naturally, you see, everything that has changed in technology has brought about obsoleteness. It has made many jobs or many mindsets or many things obsolete along the way. That's how technology develops. Everything, you know, जब वो हाथ से लेबर जो था काम करने वाला, when you know machine came, the labor is gone for a 6. अब वो फैक्ट्री में जहाँ 20 लोग होते थे वहाँ एक मशीन के पुर्जे से काम हो रहा है. So that's the nature of the beast. Technology is going to do that. And fortunately for us in Pakistan, low developing countries and low educated countries don't have to worry so much right now. It's a problem for the highly educated, highly evolved economies. आपने skill की बात की, and I'm very happy we are a nice generation on the panel. On one side is somebody, when I learned computer at the age of 40, and I still say it hates me and I hate it back. And that's that's how I still, so technology for me is not even an immigrant. I think it's something alien to me, you know. So Bilal is a native perhaps, and so are you. But having said that, I find AI very exciting for my work. And like Bilal said, it helps people who know their area. So there I agree with him that I'm able to find flaws with it, I'm able to find, and that is going to disappear very soon. आपने skill की बात की. Knowledge, higher education or education is not only to equip you with certain information. That is the transmission of education, but now with knowledge in a computer at your fingertips like AI, it's actually a knowledge repository. So with that, then your mindset has to change. Now you are, instead of looking for information and looking for data, you actually have to move beyond that to a higher purpose on how to use it. Like I think you said, or somebody you said, that how do you use it? That's it's the main. Skills में देखें, 21st century skills तो बड़ी देर से कह रहे हैं, these 4 C's, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and one more, Bilal reminds me what it is, you know. So they call their 4 C's. But I
born
think,
in the 20th century.
born in the 20th century, you're right. But now I think, जिस तरह इन्होंने कहा तैमूर ने, कि it is the human, देखें, education is about, most of all, not only a career, it's about producing a good human being. And I think that we have lost in the debates when we talk about AI. We're not talking about the human being. And that is going, I see a time that things as they progress, I hope people will rebel to the taking over of the machines and actually want the human angle back into it. And it is required. Skills में आपको क्या चाहिए? Critical thinking and creativity तो हमेशा से ही कहते थे. I think now what you will want is कि आपको context देखना है. AI can't do that. AI is not looking at the context what you're talking about. It will give you a standard answer. ठीक है? AI आपका doesn't understand the culture, the traditional wisdom that is inherent in taking a situation forward. So that is where it will fault. So वो जिसे आप hallucinate कह रहे हैं, but that's what also, there are no decolonized frameworks in our part of the world. We haven't even thought of going there. And now AI is there, so it has actually aggravated the problem that already existed. So we are stuck with Western biased, skewed frameworks that we use in our context. So we are bound to make mistakes if we are using that for problem solving. Uske baad, another thing that I've noticed with AI, because it chews up the answers and it gives you data and a whole spiel of data in front of you. And it also makes a decision for you. I think decision making, I am prone to think, has gone back to experience and that intuitive decision making that comes with a lot of experience in your background, that comes with knowing of the lay of the land, that comes, so that intuitive decision making now will take precedence. So I would say, as we all know, there are lots of risks with AI. I'm not going to go into all privacy, security, data ki jo hai, sharing, there's no more. So how are you going? The challenge for the human mind and for all of us is going to how to maintain the space that we should have around us. Those spaces are going to get fudged. So I would stop with that, saying that ethics and responsible use of AI is what we need to teach. We don't need to shy away from it. But also, like Bilal said, understand that it is deficient, it is not the perfect model to take forward, and that there will always be something wrong in there. I asked for a PowerPoint, beautiful AI does lovely PowerPoints. And so I said, I want something with an Asian, background picture. And it gave me, or if I say Muslim, it gives a hijab. And if I say Asian, it will give Chinese or something like that. So there are those problems, of course, with it. And I'll just stop there and wait on.
Thank you जी. I think जो आपने limitations, particularly risks की बात की है, तो educational जो institutions हैं, right time is they are actually focusing a lot on this. जो अभी आप कह रही थी, ये जो अभी recent Stanford ने कुछ academics को इकट्ठे किया, they've recently responded to the White House. They asked them to provide their recommendations, and one of the recommendations was that many of these tools are actually originally not developed for education sector.
No, they are not.
And when we are trying to deploy them, and they also talked about many of the, it's a very nascent stage. I think they mentioned the number of RCTs which have happened recently. They are like 56 or so only published so far in the US. That they've actually tried to understand the impact of integrating AI in education. So it's a very nascent level. But one thing we all need to understand, that many of the shortcomings, limitations of AI that we are talking about, it's actually nothing. So what the journey that they have traveled, it's a long, long journey. And जो जितना थोड़ा बहुत रह गया हुआ है, this is not a matter of सदियों का, this is a matter of years actually.
It will take
So this will change in any case.
Right.
So I'll coming back to Bilal. I have just a problem in front of me. So you help me to understand it better, and also, because we are going to talk about inequalities in education, which are already there.
And they will increase.
Digital inequalities actually made them more pervasive. मसलन हम सबको जब ये कोविड आया तो हमें नहीं पता था कि लोगों के घरों में लैपटॉप नहीं होते, बिकॉज हमारे घर में तो होता है लैपटॉप, हमारे पास तो स्मार्टफोन भी होता है. तो मैनी ऑफ द चिल्ड्रन कुड नॉट टेक क्लासेस अक्रॉस पाकिस्तान बिकॉज दे डिड नॉट हैव स्मार्टफोन, दे डिड नॉट हैव लैपटॉप्स एट होम. घर पे एक फ़ोन होता था और वो लड़का यूज़ कर लेता था, लड़की को नई क्लासेस लेने दी जाती थी. जनरली देयर मैनी स्टोरीज विच इमर्ज्ड. So on one hand, AI is offering this opportunity. मैं स्टूडेंट को कंपेयर करता हूँ जो LSE में पढ़ रहा है, जो लम्स में पढ़ रहा है, and then a student is studying in University of Kamalia as well. ठीक है, there is a University of Haripur, there is a University of Bannu as well. So यहाँ जो टीचर की क्वालिटी मिलती है लम्स में, LSE में उसको, so compare that quality of teacher, teaching, curriculum, outline, और अगर जो वो स्टूडेंट उधर बैठ के यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ बन्नू में कैन टेक CS 450 कोर्स ऑफ हार्वर्ड, वो स्टैनफोर्ड की क्लासेस ले सकता है, वो AI उसको अच्छा अगर गाइड कर सकती है, तो ऑन वन साइड दिस इज़ दैट एक्चुअली एन अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर अस, कंट्री लाइक अस. I see this as an opportunity if responsibly used, but all these areas do not have internet connectivity, do not have digital gadgets, do not have good internet speed.
Yeah.
So how will it affect this use of AI, where students living who are already advantageous, they'll further accelerate their learning,
Yeah.
और दूसरी तरफ वो भी पीछे रह जाएंगे. लेकिन एज अ कंट्री देयर इज, आई सी दिस एज एन अपॉर्चुनिटी. जैसे हम कहते हैं डेवलप्ड कंट्री, मुझे ऐसे लगता है हमारी एजुकेशन के लिए तो दिस कैन बी अ ब्लेसिंग इफ राइटली यूज्ड.
Right. So, thank you, Taimur, and thank you, Taimur and Dr. Rukhsana. So I just want to, before I answer, I obviously have very limited expertise, and I just say it from my vantage. But before I do that, I just want to say a couple of things. One is there's this idea of AI trajectory. So ChatGPT 4 was released in 2023. And Sam Altman and then Dario Amodei both, are on record for saying that we are on paths to achieve AGI by 2030. And ChatGPT 5, and this was like last month, Sam Altman said that actually when I speak to ChatGPT 5, I'm scared. This is some sort of terrifying level of intelligence and so on. Now, what we have actually seen with ChatGPT 5 has been an enormous flop and on every benchmark. And actually what you've been seeing, and I'm very happy that we are doing this in this moment, because for the last whole week that actually there has been a big kind of AI correction that's ongoing actually. So investors are pulling out, they're all questioning, and I think that this MIT study that you cited, which is only 5% of use cases are actually producing profits for companies who have invested very heavily in AI, and 95% of use cases are showing no rise in productivity. And that also is ratified by the AI adoption in workforce, in knowledge work in general. So there's another study, and I forget from where. It's like about 49% of American knowledge workers are using AI in their everyday workflow, but it shows it shows no improvement in their productivity, right? So all of these presumptions about AI leading to huge productivity boosts in knowledge workers and so on, as I'm saying, is great advertising. I'm not sure if reality has matched up to that. And then obviously there's that question of whether AI is just simply an accumulation of knowledge that already exists. AI certainly builds from that. Obviously it's all human knowledge. It's all internet, all of the internet that has been scraped and put into these systems, and all of these books that have been digitized, that have been put into these systems. This is all human generated knowledge. Great. But now actually AI companies have actually run out of data to put into these systems. And the way they've been imagining that this scaling up of these systems, the improvement of these systems going to happen is by adding more computing power and pairing that with more and more data. Now, the thing is, they have run out of data, right? There is no more data to feed into these systems. Now what they're doing is they're letting the AI systems make its own data. So these are just like language producing machines that are producing not language based on what already exists. And these systems, as I'm saying, and so the knowledge that these systems now have, you are not sure what quality of knowledge is it anymore. And so, Grok, for example, famously, 2 weeks ago, there was this big scandal of Grok, which is Twitter's Elon Musk's AI. It went on to state, and it went on like people started to kind of ask it about genocide happening in Israel. And it said, yes, genocide is happening, and ICC, these are the reports, and so on. And one day later, they tweaked it, and it's all controversial. Suddenly, it begins to say, no, it's controversial to say there is genocide happening. There is no genocide happening. So one has to be very careful with these systems. I mean, because these systems are not in our, I mean, there's an entirely different kind of conversation to be had about, what kinds of dependencies these systems are creating between us and people who are running these systems and so on. And what is it going to do about with the knowledge that you produce with these systems and so on. So these are complex questions that need their own kind of sort of conversation. As far as MOOCs are concerned, these massive online courses are concerned, I think we all remember there was a big boom of these online courses, and we thought, okay, classroom is done. We don't need universities. Everyone can now study at home. You can take MIT level classes at home. They're all free. You don't have to pay the university. And there was a moment, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, where we said, okay, everyone now has the opportunity to study at home. And we do, right? Even now we do. Now, in fact, if anything, you can get information on practically any subject that you are interested in, with very little money or for free. Now the question is, has that actually led to development of genuine expertise in areas? I'm not so sure. I mean, if you think about the scale, yes, obviously there will obviously be students who will say, oh, I self-taught. I mean, I got an email, in fact, yesterday from a student who wanted to enroll in my class and said, oh, I'm self-taught ancient Greek and Sanskrit, right? I'm not sure. I've not met this guy, but he's making this claim. It could be that he's, used AI to kind of teach himself and design a course, self-taught course. You can do all of those things. I'm trying to teach myself homeopathy using AI. But the thing is that what we do in the classroom, right, is something very specific, and this human to human contact is actually necessary. I mean, another example is that you will find all kinds of workouts and programs on the internet. Does that mean that all of us are working out, all of us are like super fit? Not really, right? There is, people are still trying to enroll themselves in gyms. They want like that one-on-one coaching. We know the value of that, of one-on-one coaching is better than a class. A class is, a kind of doing a workout on YouTube is great, but that's not necessary. These things are not necessarily replacing each other. So, I mean, I think, yes, it does create that opening, but does that mean that universities or schools or human to human education is not required anymore? I am not so sure. And I think that question has been answered as far as I'm concerned. I mean, these massive online open courses have not actually been education replacement technologies, which is how AI is now being pitched as, right? I mean, so these are all use cases that are being created with regards to AI. I'm not 100% convinced. Actually, we do, even at present, we do have technology where you can set up an AI to deliver a lecture on any subject. It will be human-like voice. It will be able to field questions. It will be able to answer questions. So technically, you don't need lectures, and that's fine. But again, the question is that all that we do in classrooms? Is there something different that we do in classrooms? And I think that there's a lot more that actually happens when a professor stands in front of a class and delivers a lecture and fields question than simply this exchange of information. So it's not just exchange of information.
Just इस पे अभी आपसे ही ऐड करता हूँ मैं, just question again rephrase करते हैं उसको. देखें, professor का role, what you are saying is not just transferring knowledge. It's mentoring, it's imagination, it's counseling. But what about the quality of professor? Is it same everywhere? Do universities or students have same access everywhere? So, this is where, and also, just इस पे थोड़ा सा बताइएगा कि when we say not being replaced, not disrupted, universities are not going to close, but a parallel learning market has created actually.
Yes.
That's a huge market.
Yes.
Every day students go in the evening,
Yes.
even if they are in MIT, in Stanford, in LUMS,
Yes.
they browse,
Yes.
they do learning.
Correct.
And if the student is not going to a good university, they are using more AI actually.
Correct.
So what I'm saying, this is happening.
Sure.
So what do you think about that aspect? कि जहाँ तो अच्छा प्रोफेसर है, अच्छा टीचर है स्कूल में, is it there possibility कि AI can help in that
No, I
way?
think what
So
you,
that's what
I think
I'm saying.
your question has the answer. I think these are complementary kind of technologies. These are not like they're not necessarily where there isn't a good professor, a kind of an open a course or AI can really elevate, play an elevated role. But where there is better classroom teaching, I mean, this won't play such a big role. All of those. So, for example, if you're a student in MIT, sure, I mean, you don't need to go to a.
They still go actually.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Because obviously it's a self-paced thing. You can make it more personalized, and I think that's the big advantage of AI, that it's very personalized learning. I mean, that's the dream. How are we going to deliver it? Whether it's like again, there are lots of questions around it as well. It's not as straightforward.
Complex. And in a way, there is, when you were saying about so much AI around and not being implemented, it's not much about technology. It's also about our understanding of technology is still very limited actually. And how to adopt it, how to use it to our benefit, every day we are struggling it. Companies are struggling, governments are struggling. So that's also something coming up. So Taimur, particularly, Mr. Uksan, ji,
I think in this debate, what we're losing out is we're focusing too much on AI and technology and losing out on the fact what exactly do we want the learner to learn.
Yes.
I think that's the debate, Hanji. The debate should be about, and AI is one component of that, like all knowledge is one component. So I think there are multiple other things why, like Bilal rightfully said, there should be human interaction. So that human interaction teaches you a lot more, and I think that's where AI is most scary, because studies are showing that after COVID, I think something happened to the mindset of the young ones. And now they're finding refuge and becoming more alone. I think I was an MSc student in 1972, and I read a book by Reisman, The Lonely Crowd, that was written in 1952. And he was saying that how with every advancement in technology, the human being in a crowd is going to be alone. And that's what's happening.
But if they are more happy being alone?
No, but that's not the human nature. That's the problem. So something is not right in the society, which technology, if we allow technology to take over our systems, then that whatever is going to be produced. And funnily enough, the AI में मेरा ख्याल है तैमूर, इन आप दोनों में से किसी को पता होगा, I forget the name of AI that is the most popular. That is actually a AI that takes on a personification, what you define, and male, female, psychologist, lover, friend, whatever. And then that's your companion. And that was withdrawn on moral grounds or ethical grounds. And there was so much demand that they had to put it back into the market. It's character AI or something. It's shocking. So it's not really educational. It's again, they're looking for an interaction. So why replace human interaction with a machine? So that's scary. So those are things we don't know.
Therapist जो है वो ChatGPT ज़्यादातर दुनिया में use हो रहा है.
बिल्कुल.
Actually using
Doctor
it as
भी
a
वही है.
counselor जो है.
Now you want a doctor? That's it.
So
I'm sorry.
Particularly, the way we are mentioning about some of the things, when more relying on AI, the knowledge is being produced. What about our writing skills, our analytical capabilities, our thinking skills? So that's a big fear actually. Like Bilal mentioned that, the senior software engineer or who are senior worker, he or she started at a junior level, got trained, mentored, and step by step reached at that level. And now they say that no one is needed at initial level. So obviously, then those sort of thinking, mentoring is not going to happen, and that person will not get how to reach at a top ladder. But for this particularly, when everything is being produced quickly, we don't have to think, we don't have to write. So how is it going to impact our capabilities? One. Second, AI is here. It is going to happen. We like it, we don't like it. This is going to impact us. This is going to our education system. And now, how universities and schools, particularly, you deal with the under K-12. So, how do we need to adopt so that we can continue our focus on these skill building as well? Those are being affected more under this AI era.
Into two answers. I want to go back to something you mentioned. If you look at the smartphone data of Pakistan, it is phenomenal actually. Barring pockets of Balochistan, KPK, Gilgit, Punjab, Sindh, is very interesting smartphone data. And what has emerged over the last few years, especially thanks to COVID, is EdTech. I don't know how many of you have heard about that. EdTech has an amazing access to the length and breadth of this country. So sitting in Kohat or Sakhar, you can now prepare for CSS exams. You prepare for MD-CAT exams. You take the best of the best tutors of Lahore sitting in Sahiwal or Khuzdar, for example. Thanks to EdTech, teachers have access to a huge platform of students. And that large student base has access to one of the best faculty members anywhere. Of course, provided they have internet and all of that. So smartphone data is phenomenal. Another example I'll talk about is Taleemabad. I don't know how many of you have heard about that. In the vicinity of Islamabad, children where father has a smartphone, is a gardener, comes home in the evening, and through that smartphone, they do their assignment for half an hour, 20 minutes using the smartphone that the father has. So there is a lot of revolutionary steps even within Pakistan that are happening as we speak. The dissemination of knowledge, now nobody banks their opinions listening to PTV or Geo News. For the first time in the history of this world, Israeli narrative is not selling because people are not looking at CNN and BBC to form opinions. There are multiple channels where information is now being disseminated. Who would have thought that one day the people's movement in Balochistan will be led by a woman, not by the feudal lords? So there is massive revolution as we speak because of technology and all of that within our own country, not going very far. Coming back to what you were mentioning, the whole skill sets are now different. So for example, and again, I'll give a very personalized example from the school. We had a grade 7 child who came to my office and said, why are we learning how to write a letter? What is a letter? So the teacher came in fuming that I've been trying to tell him letter writing is important and that you need a header and this and that and yours sincerely and that all. He said, but where do I write a letter to? So I calmed down the teacher. Of course, the child was asked to leave. I said, ma'am, he has not seen a post office. He does not collect stamps as a hobby. Letterbox is what he sees in the museum. Yes. So think of the world from his perspective. He's not wrong. Why are we teaching him letter writing? He wanted to learn how to write an email. He wanted to learn how to put up a LinkedIn account. He's not interested in what we have been trying to teach. So we have to revisit our own thinking of how we've structured the curriculum for this generation, going back to what I said earlier. So the skills that we now think are important skills were probably very useful for my generation, but not for them anymore. So we have to look at the world from there in the future perspective. For them, I remember giving out or doing projects in my school. We used to make these hockey fields and this castle and this huge trays used to come. Of course, we wouldn't do it. Somebody else would do it for us and we would claim that that's our work. And now for projects, the children want to develop apps. They don't want to make those physical projects. So interestingly, this child in grade 8, he had to develop an app. And the app that he developed was that if I click in my vicinity, I'll be locating all the tutors that are teaching. So if I want tuitions, I'll develop an app where I can, that there's a math teacher 2 streets away. I said, how were you inspired by this idea? Sir, Tinder and Bumble. So this grade 8 child is telling me about how his inspiration came and then he's developing an app himself. So this is what he wants to do. They want to develop apps. They want to learn how to make startups, for example. And going back again to your question, LUMS, and of course, these are top universities and they have the best of professors, best of schools. But see where all these startups are coming from. All of them are not coming from LUMS. So, knowledge is now fairly sort of spread out, and there are various channels and tunnels, and the whole structure of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 has completely been dismantled. And we are reconstructing that entire spectrum that we relied on and we studied from. Unfortunately, this generation is being taught by teachers who studied in the 90s, perhaps. So it's very hard for them to, like the letter writing is a very small example. There are many, many such examples where this generation wants to think. So for them, critical thinking is innovation, is startup. Critical thinking is not what used to be critical thinking one point of time. It is an interesting exercise that I read about, that a teacher asked, what is it to be a human? And children started thinking. And they were quiet. And the teacher started probing, why can't you answer? He said, everything we think a human does, the machine can do it as well. So we can't think of anything that is human anymore, because everything is now being done by the machine as well. So going back to the fact that, the whole, I feel we've been pushed to realign ourselves completely when it comes to education. And that structuring of skills, 21st century skills ki baat kare, or 20th century and all of that, they've evolved as well. And they continue to evolve as we hit 2040 2050 generation.
ये जो तैमूर कह रहे हैं, मुझे अक्सर लोग पूछते हैं जब मैं ट्रेनिंग्स पे जाता हूँ, तो जब एआई सारा कुछ करेगी तो इंसान क्या करेंगे, तो मैं उन्हें कहता हूँ इंसानों वाले काम इंसान करेंगे. सो बहुत सारे काम जो हम मशीनों वाले कर रहे थे, दे विल टेक ओवर एंड ऑब्वियसली. बट मैडम, अभी कमिंग टू दिस पॉइंट जो आपने भी पहले हाईलाइट किए हैं कि मैनी ऑफ दीज थिंग्स दैट स्टूडेंट्स कैन लर्न देमसेल्फ, यू कैन इंस्पायर देम, मेंटोर देम, ऑब्वियसली गाइड देम. लेकिन जो आपने हाईलाइट किया था कि एथिक्स की बात है, पर्सनैलिटी ट्रेट्स की बात है, तो डू यू थिंक कि टीचर का रोल क्लासरूम में इज़ गोइंग टू चेंज, एंड व्हाट शुड बी द टीचर्स रोल नाउ एज कंपेयर टू प्रीवियस? क्या अभी भी हम पावर पॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशंस बना के लेके जाएंगे? डू वी रियली नीड पावर पॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशन? हाउ डू वी डिलीवर लेक्चर? हाउ वी ऑर्गेनाइज आवरसेल्फ? द रोल ऑफ अ टीचर वो कैसे एआई वर्ल्ड में चेंज होने जा रहा है या नहीं हो रहा?
That's the problem. I think where teachers in the classroom are actually more confused on how to take it forward. और हम fortunately और unfortunately मेरा काम है मेरे यूनिट का वहाँ CLT के कि हमने टीचर्स को equip करना है. We are very proud to say कि जी हमने 2023 में we had started talking about AI at FCC. And we actually, in a year, we ensured that was our job, CLT ka. Our faculty are 100% AI literate. And literate means the basic mechanical and technical, educational knowledge of. वो जो आप कर रहे हैं कि टीचर और करिकुलम बदला के नहीं बदला, those are two things that are still the major problem. You know how to use it. But are you using it in a way that you can be a step ahead of the student? I think not. क्योंकि मैंने बहुत देर हुई पढ़ाया नहीं, and I can understand जो इन्होंने तैमूर ने बात की, that's a real dilemma. We are not in touch with our student of today. And just to give you, हमारी अभी ख़त्म हुई है day-long faculty retreat. Just to give you an example where universities are. लम्स का भी ये कहते हैं कि बबल है. आई डू नॉट नो, आई वुड रादर थिंक दैट इट्स ए गुड बबल. मगर हायर एजुकेशन का जो बबल है वो आई थिंक इज पासे. इट्स हायर एजुकेशन इज लिटरली ऑन द वे आउट, एंड आई थिंक हायर एजुकेशन हैज़ टू रीथिंक व्हाट इट वांट्स ऑफ इटसेल्फ एंड हाउ टू गो अबाउट इट. हमने सर्वे किया बच्चों का भी और फैकल्टी का भी अभी ये समर में, और हमने उनसे पूछा, फैकल्टी को हमने पूछा, हाउ डू यू फील अबाउट सम ऑफ द चेंजेस एंड हाउ अबाउट योर करियर प्रोग्रेशन. द फैकल्टी वर लाइक वाओ वाओ वाओ. द सेम क्वेश्चंस टू द स्टूडेंट, एंड नॉट इवन 50% ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स वर happy where the things were going. They were not happy with their career options later on. So the students felt that there is a disconnect in what is being taught, and I'm not very sure if this is just a FCC case. I think this is a case in all higher education institutions. Right. I'm not sure how ये बात अपने institution की कर रहे हैं. It's the same case with I think schooling side. और क्योंकि private हो या public हो, both are not in sync with where the market is going or where the world is going. Leave aside the market, that's where the world is going. तो उसमें ये इनका एक अनयूजुअल है जो ये बातें कर रहे हैं, दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट कि बच्चे को अपने व्हाट्सएप पे वो जो करना है आपने फॉर या फॉर व्हाट है, तो वो मैंने देखा कि वो अब न्यूमेरिकल्स के साथ लिखते हैं. आई एम नॉट वेरी गुड एंड आई सी एंड आई BTW and all those things. That's the language. And you need to probably a teacher.
बात उससे भी आगे
निकल गई ना वो. अब वो जो अब the even the images and the
बस
things that you do,
emoticons.
emojis, I'm sorry, I'm totally a loss over there, but those are the way to go. That's what they understand, and I would say this is academic discourse, emojis and all that, having a response over there. But are we there? No. So ना बाहर ही ऐसे है, मेरा ख्याल है बाहर भी अभी उन्होंने इन चीज़ों को बहुत ज़्यादा समझा नहीं. I think we need to rethink how we are going to keep up with the change. You cannot change what's hitting the society at large. टीचर को रोल मॉडल बनना है और आके वही बात कि somebody has to be a very good human being. So how do you have we produced good human beings so far? मेरा तो एक बहुत देर से I have this philosophy or a theory. I'm not tested, of course. कि जो whatever is happening in the world came out of leaders who are highly educated. Is there anywhere in the world where the leaders are not educated? They're pretty well educated. Even in our country, look at the world. Where is it going? What's happening in the world? Where is the connection? Where is the empathy? Where is the kindness? Where is the graciousness? Where are those things? So I am not very sure we have got what education is actually since all these centuries. So we really need to rethink. फिर मैं आपका सवाल का जवाब दूंगी कि होना क्या चाहिए, because I think whatever we are doing in institutions is bullshit. I'm sorry if I may say that. I think we are not teaching anything to our students, and we have not been able to capture their imagination and their creativity and to help them expand the way we should. I am sorry, I'm a big believer. Higher education has lost in producing adults, responsible, ethical adults. Even schools have produced. We have produced educated, हमारी जो community है, is a fodder for outside industrial units. That's all we are producing. So we haven't produced good humans, humane thinking, and I think not all over in the world. मगर हमारी ईस्ट की ट्रेडिशन तो बहुत फर्क थी. Why have we lost that? There was so much that we could export to the world, but we didn't. And I think we need to revisit that. जिसा कहते हैं ना, decolonize करना. I think we need to go back to our roots. I am sorry, हमारे campus पे I am going on and on, but there's something that hurts me. Grandmother, and as a grandmother, my grandkids are not the way I would have wanted them to be. But the problem is कि बच्चों से हमने बुलाया इसी तरह retreat पे. They had done their graduation, and I just picked up the top students from each discipline. 6 हमारे schools हैं, science, arts, and then I put them a question. उनको बिठा के, they were nearly 4 GPA, all students. I just put them questions. Are you ready for career? Are you ready to take on adult roles in life? Are you ready to take on leadership in society? And then they started discussing among themselves, and they came back horrible that we do. My mother is telling me to marry, and I don't know how it is to build a relationship. I don't know how to bring up a child. I don't know how to bring up a family. And I think we think it's about knowledge. And that's where we are. Knowledge to mil jayegi hai, I say. I'll just have to pick up my computer and put in a question, and I'll get a pretty decent knowledge answer. But will it tell me how to become really a good parent? Where does the discipline come in? Where does that structure come in that I have to give it myself? I think those are things we are missing out on. And I think we have failed all the world over as in education. What is education? We've gone away. वो अमेरिका का जो कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन का मॉडल है, that has drowned us, I think. And I think we really need to again go back to Oxford का idea बुरा नहीं था, Cambridge का character development and value development. I think we need to rethink all those things again.
मेरा I see it as an opportunity. जब हम उस रोल से निकलेंगे, maybe we can focus more on that. So I'll just give you one. हम कहते हैं ना AI खराब कर देगी knowledge. I'm just giving you 2-3 instances just. So एक colleague मेरी, she has political science undergrad or major from a university. I won't mention any university. A हो या B हो C, पाकिस्तान से ही political science undergrad. तो हम एक सखर में ट्रेनिंग कराने गए. तो we landed on सखर एयरपोर्ट. और तो एयरपोर्ट का नाम है बेगम नुसरत भुट्टो एयरपोर्ट. तो वहाँ लिखा हुआ था बेगम नुसरत भुट्टो. तो मैंने उससे पूछा ये कौन है भला बेगम नुसरत भुट्टो? She said I don't know. मतलब शी इज पॉलिटिकल साइंस मेजर.
मेरी बात सुने को
वैसे मैं कह रहा हूँ
बुरी बात नहीं है अगर नहीं
हाँ,
पता तो.
मतलब आप जस्ट इमेजिन
हाँ,
करें
but you
कि
don't know
मतलब आई एम
your
नॉट
own
सेइंग
history.
कि
हाँ.
और फिर मैंने जस्ट मुझे थोड़ी सी वो हुई ज़्यादा. तो ऐसे ही मैंने पूछा, चूंकि पॉलिटिकल साइंस है, मैंने कहा ये CCI क्या है, काउंसिल ऑफ कॉमन इंटरेस्ट का सुना हुआ है कभी कोई? कहती है नहीं पता. ये पॉलिटिकल साइंस मेजर है. मैं ना फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री में होता था डॉक्टर साहब की अंडर सुपरविजन जो है ना शुजात साहब की बड़ा लंबा अरसा. तो आई यूज़ टू डू लॉट ऑफ रिक्रूटमेंट. तो मेरा एक फेवरेट क्वेश्चन डॉक्टर साहब होता था लोगों से, जो इकोनॉमिक्स के ग्रेजुएट्स आते थे, कि आपको ECC का पता है, इकोनॉमिक कोऑर्डिनेशन कमेटी ऑफ द कैबिनेट. बिलीव मी कि 99% स्टूडेंट्स विल नेवर नो कि ECC क्या है. तो मतलब हम पहले भी कोई इतने बड़े बड़े कमाल नहीं कर रहे थे. सो होप वी कैन. सो दिस इज़ हाउ हमने एक राउंड की बजाय हम थोड़ा ऑडियंस से ज़्यादा क्वेश्चंस लेते हैं अभी. सो एनीवन यू कैन इंट्रोड्यूस योरसेल्फ, योर आइडियाज़, थॉट, ऑब्जर्वेशन, कमेंट यू कैन एड्रेस टू एनी पैनलिस्ट you are.
Nikam, it was a great panel, and I really enjoyed hearing about it's all about AI these days. So my question is, even I have now, because everybody is blindly following the crowd, I have also enrolled myself, into the data science and AI courses, although my background is in development studies. My question is, I'm worried whether AI will wipe away the law profession. The lawyers, how would that play out? And then the development sector, which is already shrinking because of the lack of funding, I know. But now you don't see the level of papers, academic research that you would see 10 years down the lane, which were produced by people like, who were running those organizations. And we don't see now any Asma Jangirs, or in the legal sector, or, academic women coming at that level. Because at that time when we were writing papers, we were doing a lot of research. We were using our brains. We were using our critical thinking. And I also sometimes used to write for different newspapers, but I've stopped writing. Why? I don't think now people are using their brains. I think it's all about AI. I'm working in one of the NGOs. I'm not going to name it, but there I can tell you honestly, lot of work and lot of donor papers are being made on these AI tools like Grok, Copilot, ChatGPT. So, this is something that we should all be, worrying about how this will play out to be and what will happen to these professions and are we, because people have Kindle, so nobody's touching books and all that. And secondly, I was just wondering that how the universities will make assessments, because when I was doing my master's, I did my master's from the University of Melbourne. I remember there was a concept of plagiarism, and we didn't have at those times. Even if the ChatGPT was there, but we weren't familiar with it. So for us, it was going to JSTOR, which was real academic hardcore work, going to Google Scholar. So nowadays, people are not using those things at all. So how do you assess and gauge the quality? And I think its quality is now like it's all dead. It's all downhill from here. So how do you assess?
साहब आप डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर और लॉ के बारे में आंसर कर दें,
मैं
और
तो
बिलाल जो
गुजराती
हैं वो सेकंड जो पार्ट है उसके बारे में कर
I'll
दें.
just give for both questions, I think what we feel was quality all the time, even though we were reading books. I think it wasn't that quality wasn't there. Very little quality existed, even though we read. But I must say, and I have also just completed a paper, and you're right, I was not truthful. I didn't read through the material. I put the material in AI and got the key takeaways from hundreds of papers. it made my life easy. You know that, and I did acknowledge it, disclosed it in my writing to the editors of that book for which I submitted the chapter. Though, better, the quality was not always there. I mean, they did a lot of hard work, but I have seen papers with and theses without framework. I have seen no original work. I have seen a lot of. So all I am saying is, what we thought कि अगर human effort लग गया तो it will be quality number one. That's a fallacy. Quality takes a lot of originality, and that is very rare. If you expect it from an ordinary, everyday human being to be as original, even highly educated, very few are original. दूसरा आपका ये था कि लॉ वगैरह में ये बेटा दे आई डोंट थिंक सो आई थिंक देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ फियर and I think it is a long way yet to play out for all of us to draw some conclusive evidence about saying कि हाँ ये ऐसे होगा. I don't think so. I think nothing is going to get wiped out really, except always technology takes over the rudimentary everyday tasks. But it will not take away a lot of things that I see more AI as a co-partner in lots of work. But the point is, I haven't yet seen the agents. I haven't yet seen what's forecasted in the future as thinking and reasoning models. So maybe I am wrong. So a lot is yet to evolve. So we will need to see by and by. And the only problem is that the biggest problem that humankind is going to face, every technology leaves a human and cultural lag. And the next thing is upon us before we have adjusted as humankind to that new thing that has happened. And I think we are doing us a big disfavor by keeping this pace and not. But अगर हम जंग नहीं रुकवा सके इसराइल की, तो फिर हम अपना वो ह्यूमन काइंड का प्रोग्रेस के लिए और उसकी हेल्थ के लिए कैसे, how can we make any decisions? So I am not very hopeful, but I think we need to put a stop to a lot of things, reassess where we are, reassess where we need to go forward as a humankind and then proceed. But I don't think that's happening. The greed of consumerism and industry is too wide for us to let step back and think for humanity. So I think, and we are not the ones who are in any position to call the shots. The shots are being called for powers in the West for everything. So I think we will add. I'm sorry, I'm given a very odd answer.
Excellent perspective.
But I think
बिलाल से ले लें, वो
हाँ,
plagiarism का कह रहे हैं,
हाँ, वो जो
universities
बात है
कैसे deal कर रही
जी.
हैं.
So I think
मुझे गलती लगती है.
I think thank you for that question. I think the question that we need to ask, and I think what Dr. Roxana has been gesturing toward,
okay.
is really coming back to ask, what if we are assessing something, what is it that we are assessing with that assessment strategy, right? So if there is a certain grading instrument like the essay or the multiple choice, or what exactly are we testing, and if we are going to test the students learning in that, and I think what we are testing is the student learning, and one thing is absolutely clear, that the traditional assessing strategies will have to radically change. So take home essays, take home exams, writing of reports, and so on and so forth. They will a lot more work will have to be done in class. The classroom as a result will have to change. So these very, very large classes with hundreds of students being lectured, that all of that work can actually be now outsourced to AI or AI bots and so on. But then the classroom will actually have to be rethought. What are you going to do in that time? And again, I think the real questions is that how, for every class, you will have to ask, what is it that I'm teaching? What kinds of cognitive skills are we helping the students build in this class? And for that cognitive skill, what kind of work does the student have to do? I think that on the one hand, it looks, I'm a little confused with this AI skill building thing, because I personally don't feel there is too much skill that's required in using AI. It's actually, if you bring it to the table to any task, you can actually get a good kind of hang of it in, after using it. So the learning curve is not steep at all. The problem is what I kept saying earlier, is really, you are getting certain output. You trust that output. The assumption is that this is just as good as a human expert telling me whatever it's telling me. The truth is, it's not, and that is the problem. So the problem of verification, sure. So the problem of verification, and I think that ultimately the question is, and I think that the fact is that AI as it exists right now will always need human guidance. And will always need human expertise. So law profession will always need a lawyer to ratify the output that it's getting. A doctor, yes, ChatGPT can give you a diagnosis, but a doctor will have to look at it and say whether it makes sense or not.
So we can take 3-4 quick comments, observations, and then we can ask the panelists to respond.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Zaida Shahid. I worked with Sir as a research analyst for the last year. और अभी मैं अपना fashion brand start कर रही हूँ. I have a comment and a question from Sir Taimur. So basically, I think the disconnect that you're mentioning about writing a letter was way back when I was studying 10 years back. जब मैं letter लिख रही थी, उस वक्त post office मैंने ज़िंदगी में देखा ही नहीं था. ना ही मैंने कभी उस letter का अभी तक लिखा. Even my emails basically are 1 word or 2 words. वो basically कोई regards वगैरह हमारी generation उसका इस्तेमाल नहीं करती. And the question is, with the introduction of technology and after COVID, there was this huge mental issue of showing symptoms of ADHD, losing focus, and that is not just our generation, that is also the kids that are basically in universities, in schools. They can't sit in class and focus on an hour lecture or like 8 hours of lectures. Are you actually doing something to basically improve the focus and attention spans?
Very good. You interpreted very well, but that's the digital word for you. Absolutely.
आज जो डिबेट हुई है बड़ी यूज़फुल है, बड़ी इंफॉर्मेटिव है, लेकिन देखिए AI जो है, बिलाल साहब ने कहा कि 95% ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इज नॉट गेटिंग बेनिफिट फ्रॉम द AI. I think we don't know how to calculate the benefits. Let us say I give you an example. HR's manager, he asks CVs for different and asks, this is our requirements. AI applications say 100 application, give them 10 required candidates. They are saying time, stresses, and workload. We don't know how to calculate. Organization is getting benefits in different ways. Whereas the education system, yes, scenario different है. School level पे जो मैम कह रही हैं, एजुकेशन हाई लेवल में मैं थोड़ा सा पढ़ाता भी नहीं, और मुझे भी मौका मिला कोविड में ऑनलाइन पढ़ाने का. प्रॉब्लम इज देयर कि फेस टू फेस का डिफरेंट होता है. लेकिन देखिए ये लॉन्ग जर्नी, जैसे आपने बताया लॉन्ग जर्नी. आफ्टर 10 years we perhaps we will discuss on different issues on the AI. So it's continuous journey. It's a technology, and we need to get a benefit of technology up to certain levels. It is even 100% we getting with that. और ये यूरोप अमेरिका ने भी बना दी है, वो भी कर रहे हैं. और आपने बताया कि मैंने स्टेट में था तो एक बंदे से गोरे से पूछा कि भाई तो फलानी स्टेट में, मैं तो सारी जिंदगी इसी स्टेट में मर गया, और 90-80% बता रहा. आई डोंट नो विच इज करेक्ट. 80% इसी स्टेट जीते हैं, मरते हैं, जॉबें करते हैं और निकल जाते. लेकिन हम समझते हैं मतलब पूरी दुनिया में ट्रैवल कर. ये चीज़ें परसेप्शन में आ जाती हैं. हमें जितना भी हमें कोशिश करनी, जितनी भी टेक्नोलॉजी से बेनिफिट लेने चाहिए. मेरिट्स भी होते हैं, डिमेरिट्स भी होते हैं, लेकिन इसमें हमें पीछे नहीं हटना, बल्कि उनके साथ कोऑर्डिनेट आगे बढ़ाना चाहिए. दिस इज माय बिल्कुल ठीक है.
So I could look it up, but I thought I'd ask you, why is that? And secondly, just in my own research, I work in education. My name is Masuma. So some of the data analysis with my team, we were thinking, okay, should we just put it in AI or just like have it summarize it? So then someone said, do you want to give it to a bot? So there is this privacy concern. So is it that people, like, we don't want it to be part of the repository yet, like we want to have control over it. So what's the reason for there being no new data जो आप कह रहे थे is quite intriguing.
जो लाइबा बता रही थी कि आप कैसे ये प्रॉब्लम्स एड्रेस
so-
कर रहे हैं अटेंशन के स्कूल में with this
Again, this is a generation that wants instant gratification. They will rather comment on a tweet than read an article and ask a question later. They form opinions on small bits of pieces, and it's coming fairly quickly towards them. So their learning journey is not going into detailed research reports or writing or analyzing, etc. They're doing it differently. With that, I don't call it ADHD. I think this is the new form of learning for them. ADHD has been an issue, but not really. What has happened is these early years, for example, I'm strictly against gadgets being given to these really young ones, because dealing with early years coming into admissions, quite a few times you feel that there's nothing wrong with the child. It's just that too much exposure of gadgets. He will not eat unless he sees television, or will not. They put 4 kids together, they will not talk, they will communicate through the gadget. So there's no dealing, and that has slowed them down. So when they come into early years or grade 1, or we feel that there's a lag, we have special needs policy. They don't fall into that policy completely because there's nothing wrong, it's just too much exposure. So here we counsel the parents and we bring them onto the table and try and tell them that it's not cool because you want to watch a play, so you give a phone off to the child, or you want to talk endlessly on the phone, you give them an iPad to just kill their time. That has had a damaging impact. But at the same time, technology is something you can't completely divorce them with. So there has to be a balance that you need to strike. We've, over the years, I can give you data, the last 5 years, we've had more and more children now coming and reporting things like being on the spectrum, where they're not on the spectrum. ADHD is just one of the problems that we see.
जी बिलाल आप डेटा के बारे में I'll also
So-
share with you पहले बिलाल का
So I think I don't know how much people are familiar with how these systems work, but it's basically they're given a lot of human generated knowledge and basically more and more computing power. So the hypothesis of all of these AI companies was that the more data you gave, and if you scale up the computing power, it is going to by itself start reasoning and start to generate human-like intelligence and expertise in various areas. Now the thing is that they have fed all the data, so they've scraped all the data that exists on the internet, right? And that includes everything basically, including images, including videos, including texts, everything. And that also includes books that have been scanned, and that in all languages. So you can actually have a perfectly good conversation with these large language models in Urdu, for example, right? I mean, I use Claude, which is my primary LLM, to work with it, to work through classical Urdu poetry, because I love Mir, and sometimes I get stuck, or sometimes I have a suspicion of a word meaning something and so on. Anyway, so it really helps me in that way because it has all of that. But actually the truth is that these companies have run out of more data. So what they're doing is they are using LLMs to create more data that they are then feed into these systems. So what you have is a really kind of a strange situation where, yes, so they generate more synthetic data to feed back into these LLMs because that is their hypothesis. But the truth is, as I was saying earlier, that they have hit a wall, that they have not been able to scale it. For the last 2 years, they had been claiming, and again, you can go and watch these interviews with Sam Altman, Dario Amodei, where they're claiming that we are on an exponential curve, right? And every 6 months, we actually more than like it's an exponential, so it's not like a double, it's not even 4 times, it's like every time you have an exponential increase in these models. That has not happened for the last 2 years. That the improvements have been incremental, they've been very, very small. The difference between ChatGPT 4.5, which came out last year, and ChatGPT 5 is actually very minor, and the big jumps happened between ChatGPT 3 and ChatGPT 4. After that, it's been actually very small and very incremental. So I just want to say that there have been these claims, and these claims are great because they are inviting so much investment into what they want to do, because they have a hypothesis that we want to build computing power, we want to have our own nuclear power plants. But the truth is that the output has not matched up to their claims yet. And there are serious engineering problems, as I'm saying, that underlie these systems, where they're saying that unless you solve these problems, you will not be able to scale up. And these problems are not new. These problems have been known for at least 30 years in the field. And those problems have not been solved.
ये मैं जस्ट थोड़ा सा बिलाल से उस पर डिसएग्री करूँगा. जो अभी इंजीनियरिंग प्रॉब्लम जो था, दैट प्रॉब्लम इज़ जस्ट लाइक कि जो डारपा है यूएस डिफेंस, उसने 1988 में ड्राइवरलेस कार्स के कॉम्पिटिशन्स कराए. तो साइंस इवॉल्व्स लाइक इंक्रीमेंटली जो है ना. 1988 में कराए, इट वाज नॉट अ वेरी गुड एक्सपेरिमेंट. यू नो, मैनी सेड दिस इज़ एन एम्बिशन दैट्स नॉट गोइंग टू हैपन. यू नो, इन 2013-14 कैलिफोर्निया की सड़कों पे इट स्टार्टेड रोमिंग अराउंड. सो अभी जो है उसके अंदर प्रॉब्लम्स आ रहे हैं डेटा के, एंड वो डेटा स्क्रैप हो चुका है जो होना था. सिंथेटिक डेटा से ज़्यादा अभी दो चीज़ों पे काम हो रहा है. एक ये हो रहा है कि कुछ तो लोग प्राइवेसी की वजह से अब डेटा शेयर नहीं कर रहे, कुछ प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स आ गए हैं, कोर्ट्स की जजमेंट्स आ गई हैं कि आप किसी की विदाउट परमिशन नहीं ले सकते. अभी बल्कि जो नई जजमेंट आई है उसमें जो इंटरनेट पे पब्लिक डेटा है यूएस में एक आई है, आप ले सकते हैं लेकिन स्टोर नहीं कर सकते अपने पास, because LLM is not actually reproducing your knowledge. They gave that judgment that this is allowed to pick up public data because property rights violate nahi ho rahe, because you are not reproducing their text. They are generating new text. They are just learning from it. तो उन्होंने सेकंड उस पर कहा है कोर्ट ने, तो ये ओपन एआई का बड़े अरसे से केस चल रहा था, तो उन्होंने दूसरा कहा है कि लेकिन स्टोर नहीं कर सकते. दे इन्फोर्स पेनल्टीज एक्चुअली, बिकॉज विदाउट परमिशन यू आर स्टोरिंग इट. जो इसके अंदर डेटा अब आ रहा है उसके अंदर वॉलंटरी डेटा बहुत शेयर हो रहा है. अब वॉलंटरीली, आपने तो नहीं वो रिपोर्ट शेयर की, बट देयर आर सो मेनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस who want to put their data publicly to go there so that people learn. Every day जो हम interact कर रहे हैं, how a cable manufacturing company is interacting, how Honda is interacting, marketing company, that data is also being generated. तो ये एक तो डेटा पे ये काम हो रहा है. सेकंड ये हो रहा है कि अब नो द बिग रेवोल्यूशन जो आएगा वो अब डेटा से नहीं आना, वो स्टोरी किसी हद तक ख़त्म हो गई हुई है. तो नो द बिग रेवोल्यूशन दैट आर वर्किंग, दे आर एक्चुअली न्यूरो साइंटिस्ट वर्किंग वेरी क्लोजली विद ऑल दीज एआई इंजीनियर्स, एंड दे वांट टू एनहेंस द रीजनिंग कैपेबिलिटी कि थोड़े डेटा से ज़्यादा अच्छी रीजन कर सके. That challenge is there, but people are trying to. So with that, I will thank all panelists, CDPR for arranging it, and sorry for lot of moderation. Moderator के पास speaker होता है, जब दिल करता है बोल पड़ता है. तो I was lucky in that way. Speaker से ज़्यादा मैं बोल गया. तो जो है वो thank you everyone. So let me just conclude it in a way that it's a very, very complex topic. We all are struggling, universities are struggling, students are struggling, policymakers are struggling. So we need to have more conversation, more research actually on the implementation of AI, use of AI. That is still not happening actually. जैसे वो अभी मैं स्टैनफोर्ड का भी, उन्होंने भी कहा है कि अभी ज़्यादा RCTs नहीं हो रहे, हमें पता नहीं है, एविडेंस इनकन्क्लूसिव है अभी कि what is going to happen. So I think there is one part is research, another part is literacy, the third part is responsible use of AI, and the fourth one is how we can reduce inequalities instead of perpetuating inequalities. और जो लास्ट मैडम रुखसाना ने बात की है, आई थिंक डीकोलोनाइजिंग, और जो बाइसेस री इन्फोर्स हो रहे हैं, चूँकि नॉलेज वही सारा क्रिएट होया हुआ है, वो एम्पलीफाई हो रहे हैं. सो दैट इज़ ऑल्सो वेयर फॉर रिसर्चर्स दिस इज़ अ क्वेश्चन कि हम कैसे अपना लोकल नैरेटिव प्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं. बट देयर विल रिमेन लिमिटेशंस जो हमें समझनी होंगी, जिस तरह की ग्रॉक की हैं कि कब वो पीछे से चेंज कर दें और हमारा सारा नॉलेज डीकोलोनाइज होया हुआ भी कॉलोनाइज हो जाए. तो दीज लिमिटेशंस will remain there. So thank you very much.